Ladies and gentlemen, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the February 9th, 2021 meeting of the Laughlin Town Advisory Board. Initially, I'll go through some housekeeping items for us so these can be read into the minutes. This is a note that social distancing will be practiced during this meeting. You'll be asked to keep appropriate spacing, which is known as 6 feet away from other meeting attendees. Items on the agenda may be taken out of order, and the board may combine 2 or more agenda items for consideration. The board may remove an item from the agenda or delay discussion relating to an item at any time. No action may be taken on any matter not listed on this posted agenda. All planning and zoning meetings matters heard at this meeting are forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners Zoning Commission, also known as the BCC, or the Clark County Planning Commission, known as the PC, for final action. Please turn off all cell and mute all cell phones and other electronic devices if you'll take a minute to do that. Please take all private conversations outside this room. Within a 48-hour advance request, a sign language interpreter or other reasonable efforts to assist and accommodate persons with physical disabilities may be made available by calling 702-455-3530, TDD at 702-385-7486, or Relay Nevada toll-free at 800-326-6868. Supporting material provided to the board members for this meeting may be requested from our Tammy Harris at 702-298-0828 and is or will be available on the county's website at www.clarkcountynv.gov. If you do not wish to attend this meeting in person, but would like to comment on an item appearing on this agenda or provide general public comment, please submit your comments to tammy.harris@clarkcountynv.gov before 10:30 a.m. the day of the meeting, which today would be February 9th, 2021. Please include your name, address, and identify which agenda item you are commenting on and your comment. Comments will be read into the record, and no comments over 3 minutes in length will be read. All comments received will be compiled into a document and shared as part of the meeting's minutes. Now, that's a relatively new addition that we have, basically because of some of the constraints with COVID. And additional information for anyone if they would like. Our town advisory board meetings are now going to be shown live on YouTube. So they will be streamed live on the first Tuesday of each month at 1:30 p.m. And then an archived version of each meeting will be available for viewing by the following Thursday of the week. So in other words, today's meeting would be available on the following Thursday of this week. To get to the YouTube channel, just go to YouTube and in the search bar, type in Laughlin Town as one word, and that'll direct you to a link that you can click on for this meeting, the archived or the live if you're not able to attend. So that's a relatively new advancement that we have, and we're hoping the community will take advantage of that. So going forward here today, instead of doing a roll call, I'll identify we have Fred Doughton, Kathleen Haas, Kathy Oakes, Herm Walker, and Pamela Walker, no relation, that are here today, and this consists of your new elected board for 2021 to 2022. Our secretary is Tammy Harris, and again, you can reach her at the town manager's office phone number, which is 702-298-0828, and her email is tammy.harris, HARRIS, at clarkcountynv.gov. And this will all be available on the website for you. So with that, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, and I please ask that you stand for our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Our invocation will be given by Pastor Doug Wesley.
First of all, congratulations to our new board. I've had the opportunity to get to know each one of them over the past month or so, and I can tell you this is certainly is a fine group of people. I'm very pleased and joyful that we have such a great group here. So I would like to ask now that we pray for God's blessing on our new town board. Father, I ask that you anoint this group. I ask that you give them a special wisdom, a special knowledge, a special heart for everything that they're doing. I know they already have that, but give them even more than what they've had before this moment right now, where you're blessing them, anointing them. We just thank you so much for this group. We thank you so much for blessing Laughlin. In the name of Jesus, amen.
And if you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. So then I will move forward, or do you want me to do a roll call, since I dispensed with that earlier? Okay. Moving forward to item 2, which is the public comment. And to our audience, this is a period devoted to comments by the general public about items that appear on this agenda. So if you've had a chance to review the agenda, it would be speaking to items that appear only on this agenda. If you wish to speak to items that are not on this agenda, there is a period later that comes for that. No discussion, action, or vote may be taken on this agenda item. You will be afforded the opportunity to speak on individual public hearing items at the time they are presented. If you wish to speak to the board about items within its jurisdiction but not appearing on this agenda, you must wait until the comments by the general public period listed at the end of this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we're going to ask that you will take the speaker's podium that we have here, and that you would state your name and address for the record. And if you could spell your name, that would be of great assistance, as these are recorded and it makes it easier on Tammy to do the minutes. And then once you finish speaking, because of constraints with COVID, if you wouldn't mind wiping down the podium for the next person to speak. And if any member of the board wishes to extend the length of a presentation, this will be done by the chairperson or the board by a majority vote. Okay. And again, this is new. This next portion, it's if you do not wish to attend this meeting in person, but would like to comment on an item appearing on this agenda, please submit your comments to Tammy Harris at clarkcountynv.gov before 10:30 a.m. on February 9th, which would be the day of the meeting today. Please include your name, address, and identify which agenda item you are commenting on and make your comments. Comments will be read into the record, and no comment over 3 minutes in length will be read. All comments received will be compiled into a document and shared as part of the meeting's minutes. So do I have any members of the public here? Please, Mr. Maniaci. And this is speaking to items that are on this agenda today.
Report to Laughlin's people and the Town Advisory Board on 9 February 2021 of the Comprehensive Planning Department's Transform Clark County Changes to the Master Plan plus Title 30 Advisory Committee audio-video meeting on Wednesday, 20 January 2021. About your agenda item to appoint a new representative to the county's advisory committee, I point out when I accepted the initial appointment, it was for the length of the project, slated for the end of 2022. Since you are determining otherwise, I wish your new appointee the best in catching up to the commission adopting a new master plan in the next few months while work escalates to revise the onerous Title 30. The process is at the end of the fourth of 8 steps. At the advisory committee meeting, 12 of the county's 19 advisory boards and councils were represented. The common theme remained making appropriate allowances for the differences among the various townships and communities, different from the fast-growing urban valley townships' needs. Equally as important was the emphasis on the absolute need for more frequent and transparent communications between the BCC and its staff to the communities, and for the BCC staff to listen to the needs of the communities, as it is a two-way street. Especially desired are more frequent visits by the commissioners and key staff to the tabs and CACs. This includes giving boards and councils opportunity to analyze and comment on proposed ordinances, to receiving more of the staff reports on zoning applications with maps that show the particulars of the application instead of general aerial photos. While the master plan will be reduced in size, it will still be a text-oriented document. The consultant and staff explained they will replace much of the development code text with charts, matrices, illustrations, and photos of the point trying to be reached. The BCC directed at the start that Title 30 be greatly reduced in zones and complication. That remains as the purpose, to make it user-friendly. Thus, it appears much of the accommodations to the rural's need for relief will have to be done in the 11 area plans attached to the unifying master plan. Laughlin has its own area plan. Thank you for the opportunity to serve Laughlin.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to speak on any item that is on today's agenda? If not, I'll go ahead and close the first section of public comment. And we'll move forward to item number 3, which is appoint a Laughlin Town Advisory Board, tomorrow we learn how to talk, chair and vice chair to serve a 2-year term and take any action deemed appropriate. And this is for possible action.
Chair,
I'm sorry.
I would like to make the motion that you, Kathy Oakes, and Kathleen Haas, you be the chair, she be the vice chair, as you had the most votes that came in, and she had the second vote.
Okay, I have
I will second that.
motion and a second. Any discussion amongst the board? No? Okay. I'll go ahead and ask the question. All those in favor of Kathy Oakes as chair and Kathleen Haas as vice chair? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's 5 ayes and the motion carries. Okay. So those will be your new officers for the next 2 years. So then moving forward to item number 4, which this is approval of the minutes for November 10th of 2020. I believe everyone had, Herb, you and I were on the board during that last meeting. That was immediately after the election. If the other members, have you had a chance to review those? Okay, I'm going to ask you if you have any input or anything you had any questions about, if there was anything. And then in addition, I'm going to ask you to keep these out because we're going to be referring to them in a later agenda item. So I just want you to see how the prior vote went for capital expenditures from the county. So I just want to ask you to leave those out. Does anyone have any additions, deletions, or questions on the November 10th minutes?
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the minutes as published.
Okay, I have a motion to approve
Second.
as rendered and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Oh, the microphone, Herb? Okay. Okay, so we've approved the minutes. So now I need a motion for approval of today's agenda, which is February 9th, 2021. And this is an opportunity for the board to hold, combine, or delete any items that you see you would like to change. If not, to accept this agenda going forward as written.
So moved.
I have a first
Second.
and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion carries. Now we'll move forward to informational items. And on our informational items, I'd like to receive a report from Lieutenant Jeff Hughes with Metro Police regarding activity and statistics for the past month. Maybe it's more than 1 month, I'm not sure, since we haven't had a meeting in a while. And other crime concerns.
Hi, Gino Briscoe, Sergeant
Yeah.
with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, standing in for Lieutenant Hughes today.
Yeah, you didn't look like him, so I was
Right,
a little
you're looking
lost.
around.
I'm sure who that was.
So we'll talk about calls for service in January 2021. We had 337. January 2020, there was only 5 less, 333. So it's a small rise in calls for service, only 5. During citations for Laughlin, we had 264 citations. Traffic-wise, we had 4 DUI arrests. Battery domestic violence, we had 6 arrests. And in the Laughlin Tucker holding area, we had 41 arrests altogether in the month of January 2021. And there's a few hotels that are still at the top of the calls for service, but nothing critical, nothing over the top. That's all I have.
One of the questions I was just curious about, because you know, the properties right now have been at 25% occupancy since October.
Okay.
So I just was surprised at your numbers from 333 calls in January of 2020 to 337. So that's a big increase when you consider our traffic counts as far as tourism, which is our main economic engine,
Right.
are limited to only 25%. What would you attribute that to?
The working in the field, being a working sergeant, 5 more calls for service with the percentage of people in the hotels being down, our suspects happen to stand out a little bit more. So we'll be able to make more contact with them because the hotels call and say, hey, we got this guy. Rather than blending in with all the citizens, the individuals who are committing crimes really stick out.
So it's heightened screening,
Yeah,
you believe? Okay.
you bet.
That's
It's easier to
interesting.
spot them.
Okay, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Any other questions for the sergeant? Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you so much.
And if we could, do we have anyone here from Nevada Highway Patrol? No? Okay. And receive a report from Clark County Fire Department, there he is, regarding calls for service during the past month and other previous months. If he has that, I'm not sure. Oh.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thomas Touchstone, Thomas. Touchstone is Touchstone. Deputy Fire Chief of the Clark County Fire Department, running operations. If I may, I would like to give a report on year-end totals, December and year-end totals from last year.
Please, I'd be
Next
appreciated.
meeting, I'll be sure to provide January and February numbers, depending on when the meeting is. So for last year, statistically, we were down all across Clark County, including a little bit here in Laughlin. Surprisingly, when we look at the call volume numbers, they're not as low as I would expect, as we saw in Las Vegas. However, Engine 76 in 2020 ran 422 total calls for service, as compared to the year before they ran 610. That is largely in part due to the COVID response, but also in October of last year, we put in service Truck 76, which you can see as a line item on my report. In previous years, Truck 76 was not in service and not running calls since prior to about 2008. So in October, we put Truck 76 in service at Station 76, and they are running the majority of the call volume out of that station. But we did, as I reported last time I was here, we elected to leave Engine 76 there so the crews could kind of pick and choose, depending on the call they were running, the apparatus that would be most effective for that type of call. For example, Truck 76 cannot run down along the lake road, off-road, et cetera, where they can take an engine out that direction. We don't like to run Truck 76 on any traffic accidents up the hill, so we wanted to make sure that we didn't have a delay in response. So they basically have two fully equipped pieces of equipment sitting in the station right next door, and they primarily jump on the truck because if a fire call comes in, we want them to be able to take that piece of equipment. However, they have the ability to jump on the engine instead, and so you'll see that engine 76's call volume was down, but that is in large part because Truck 76 was running many of the calls in their stead. Rescue 76, for the end of the year, they ran 1,040 calls as compared to 1,265 the year before. That's an 18% reduction. That's pretty common for our units in Clark County. Truck 76, you can see they ran 104 calls total for the year. 75 of those calls were EMS and 16 of them were fire calls, which is the primary reason why we brought that truck down here, was to run fire calls and provide that aerial apparatus support when needed. Watercraft 76 did not run any calls in December, but for the year, they ran 3 calls total, as compared to 4 calls total the year before. We do recognize that there are some issues with our data collection on our watercraft responses down here, and that's in large part because when these calls come in, they come in as, let's say, a medical problem, when in fact it requires a watercraft response. And so if we respond to a medical problem and then realize we need the watercraft, our dispatchers don't change the response of the call. It stays as the primary call type, yet we add the apparatus. And so we're working on being able to clean up that data to be able to say, because I know for a fact a watercraft 76 hit the water more than 3 times in 2020, but we want to clean up that data and be able to provide a more accurate report in the future. Station 85, Engine 85 ran 1,218 calls in 2020 as compared to 1,043, which is a 17% increase. And I kind of find that interesting, and I can't today stand here and tell you why we had that increase. Because we did see a significant reduction during the initial phases of the COVID pandemic. But obviously they made up that ground in some way, shape, or form. And next time I come, I'll be prepared to speak about that a little bit more.
If you could just so I don't mistake it, some of our board is brand new to getting these reports. They've sat, but it's been several years for some of them.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Station 76, identify their location in 85 for the board.
Yes. Station 76 is right next door, and Station 85 is down the Needles Highway towards
So the
Needles.
largest increase you've seen by 17% was what we consider the residential area.
Correct.
Right.
Yep,
I
in
see.
the residential area. And so we can see the breakdown of those calls. In 2020, they ran 1,025 EMS calls and 114 fire calls, and 79 other. And those other calls could be anything from picking a person up that just fell down to potentially a brush fire that came in as fireworks or something like that. And then Watercraft 85, because both stations have a watercraft in their barns. They ran 3 calls for the year, and we can see that last year they ran 3 calls as well. But the same would be true with their data. We need to clean that up to be able to provide a more accurate reporting on how often they've responded. But we can see for Laughlin, total responses are down 5% if you average out across the entire both stations. That negative 5% is not that substantial of a number considering the pandemic. As we are seeing in Vegas, our numbers are about 9% down. And that is primarily because Engine 85's numbers were so high as compared to the year before. The Clark County Fire Department has been very busy in the last 9 months, providing community testing and also most recently vaccinations. I did provide a handout there. We're very proud to say that we were here last week providing vaccinations to the community of Laughlin. And you can see we were down here for 2 days with our community partners. And on February 3rd, we were able to vaccinate 970 people with the Moderna vaccine. And on February 4th, we were able to vaccinate 1,001 people. As it states on my handout, the primary objective was to vaccinate the citizens of Laughlin who fell in Tier 1. This group included people over the age of 70, first responders, healthcare professionals, and teachers. And we'll be coming back the first week of March to administer the second doses of Moderna for those individuals who received the first dose. We're very proud of that. We're also, again, we have the same efforts going on in Las Vegas. And so we're pretty proud to say that we're part of that solution for this pandemic. That ends my report, and I'm ready to answer any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Please.
Probably has gotten lost somewhere. At the last meeting, I made an inquiry as to whether or not enclosed facilities, such as condominiums, are required to have more than one exit.
Okay. So as far as like a fire exit, or and you're speaking specifically about an egress, like for vehicles, or out of a structure, out of a parking area, or out of a structure?
Out of the parking area.
Okay.
But assuming there's a wildfire, most of these are pretty well forested.
Yes, sir.
A lot of trees and so on. If people have been notified to evacuate in the process, that's a pretty congested area with a lot of motor vehicles going through one gate. Most of them just have one gate.
Yes, sir.
My question was, is there any ordinance or regulation that requires a second gate?
And so I'm not prepared to answer that, but I will find the answer for you. The Fire Prevention Division used to fall under the Clark County Fire Department, and now they report to the building official.
Okay.
And I know at one time we had a fire inspector down here full-time, and they would be the best person to answer
still
that
do.
question, to speak to the fire code specifically. And I'm not sure what the status of that, because they now are housed under the building department and they report to the building official. I do have a great relationship though, sir, and I will get an answer and bring it back for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Touchstone,
Yes, ma'am.
Deputy Chief Touchstone, it was regarding gated community exits, and it was BC Battalion Chief Straley that we had spoken with. But we do. Sherry is our inspector, and
Sherry.
she works closely with the building department, so she may have
Yeah,
some
she would
information on
absolutely
that.
be the best person to ask that question to, and she would be the enforcement official for apartment complexes or any structures, if they have chained exits, et cetera. But I will certainly still follow up and bring back an answer next time. And I'll also speak to Mr. Straley, because he didn't relay that question to me.
It was a while ago.
I
It was
understand.
our last meeting in November, I believe.
Yes.
Any other questions of the board?
What year?
What year? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And our next item, which is item 4, receive a report from Greg Turner, Clark County Water Reclamation District, regarding status of the wastewater system.
He's not here.
He's not here. Do you want me to read that into the minutes? Yeah. And our report, the written report, statistics, January 2021, LWRC treated an average of 1.47. What is the MGD for?
Really, 20 gallons.
Gallons. Oh, okay. Producing clean water returned to the Colorado River. And in January 2020, the difference was 1.85, so definitely a reduction. The flow decreased 380,000 gallons per day from last year at this time. There were no sewer complaints, no odor complaints, and call before you dig. That's interesting. There were 34 call before you dig tickets received for January of 2021. That's interesting. Influent monthly flow comparison, and
She didn't provide one.
oh, there isn't one. Okay. All right. Okay, so we have that done. And next is to receive a report from Jason Bailey with the Big Bend Water District. Is he here?
He's,
There he is. Okay.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jason Bailey with the Big Bend Water District with the report for the month of January 2021. Also on my report, I included the total diversions for the year 2020 since we haven't met since then. So for January 2021, our total diversions were 201 acre feet. Now we measure our diversions or water usage by acre feet, which if you can imagine an acre of land with 1 foot of water, that is an acre foot. For reference, an average household or 2.5 to 3 households use about 1 acre foot a year. So for reference. And as you can see in 2020, our total diversions were 3,509 acre feet, down from 2019. Again, as you can see in March and April of 2020, we had quite a bit less diverted, probably due to the closure in the pandemic. Also, I did ask about our decrease this month because 201 is quite a decrease from prior years. It's probably a combination of a couple things. Late last year in October, we refurbished a tank and installed a new system, which allows us to flush less water. So you can see November and December at the end of last year were down as well as January of this year. So it's just a more efficient system. Also, it could be just the demand from the casino corridor as well. So I think just moving forward, we'll kind of see what trend we have in the coming months. I also want to report that there were no major leaks or issues to report at this time, and I wanted to address an inquiry by Ms. Oakes last meeting about a bill pay drop box at the new market. I spoke with our customer service and operations people, and we are trying to get customers to engage with us online and via our kiosk at our site. You can also pay by phone, pay by mail. So there's various ways to pay. So at this time, we won't be adding a drop box at the market, but I just wanted to report on that. And then lastly, a bit of good news is our staff applied for and we were awarded a $1.5 million in grant funding for the Big Bend Water District. That is from the State Revolving Fund and Capital Improvements Grant. That money will be used to increase system reliability. It will be a lot of different things, upgrade to hardware, software, connectivity to our SCADA system, which is kind of the brain or the computer that operates our water system, as well as replace any old pipelines and upgrade some of our electrical system. So that grant money will be used to improve the Big Bend Water District system. That's my report. Any questions? Yes.
Sir.
If Lake Mead continues to deplete, it gets to a critical depletion, what impact would that have on Laughlin?
So there are a number of steps that will be taken before we get to critical mass, I guess, which involves the lake. But there are federal shortages that will take place. And so every state that shares water from the Colorado River will have to take a shortage of water. Now for us, for Southern Nevada, our shortage is, the water we use every year is still less than what our shortage would be. So moving forward, we are in good shape here. We're also always looking for different water resources, partnerships with other states. There are 7 states that share water on the Colorado River. Laughlin is in good hands. I think that your allocation is a little over 15,000 acre feet of water, and as you can see last year, the usage was about 3,500. So we also a few years ago constructed a 3rd straw at the very bottom of the lake, and so we're able to pull water from the depths of Lake Mead, which is better than any other state that share the water can say. So there are many steps that we'll take before we reach that critical condition, I guess, on the lake.
So your answer is not to worry?
Not to worry.
We have
the Southern Nevada Water Authority has a 50-year water resource plan. It's on the website. You can look into that and you can see for 50 years the water resources and the storage and the banked water that we have. And they update that every year, so we're always looking out 50 years.
Thank you.
So just for clarification, just so everyone, it's just easier for me to understand. We're only utilizing 1/5 of our allocated water
Roughly,
as
yeah.
Laughlin stands in existence today.
Yes.
And that's pretty good because I remember like many years ago, I've sat on this board for like 19 years. So I remember we were using 1/3.
Yeah, it was higher.
So,
It was
correct.
It was
And now we're at 1/5. And I believe we don't necessarily have as much tourism as we did, but we, definitely have more residential households.
Yeah, there's also conservation messages that we promote.
Have
We do so
improved, yeah.
mainly in Las Vegas, but here as well. And so
I think we've improved what we return
absolutely,
as
yeah,
well.
absolutely. So really, any water that can stay in the river in the system will be beneficial to it.
I've also sat on your board when we did the latest rate increase, and they went through quite a bit of your capital improvements that you had going forward. So I believe when we set up for the PUC, Herm, were you on that board as well?
No, I don't
Okay.
believe so.
But they had set up to obtain some of those grants. And then, one of my questions for several people that are giving reports today deal with capital improvements and expenditures. My time in the corporate world, we used to have all of those in by May for fiscal July 1, approvals. So I'm just curious if there are additional capital expenditures or going forward on the plan that the rate hike allowed your improvements and your grants and stuff to come in, where that's kind of sitting at. And then, so I was just wondering if you maybe could come back and give us some updates on the improvements that have been made in that whole, we did like a 5-year plan.
Since the rate increase? Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I know that this grant money that we got, the 1.5 million, is kind of separate from that. That is
Oh,
grant
good.
money from
That's
the
even
state.
better.
Yeah, and so that's separate from that, and so that will be used to, like I said, maintain and improve the system. But as far as the rate increase and what's happened since then, I'd be happy to get that information and
Yeah,
bring
I
that
know
back.
you had several improvements that you were doing and stuff. And then just one other roundabout question, just, always looking at the impacts that this pandemic has had. Do you think in the Laughlin area you've lost a lot of households or users? Or, obviously it will be down on the properties,
Yeah.
at 25% occupancy. But are you seeing you're losing, people with households and residentials that are moving out of the area or anything like that? Are
Yeah,
you
that's
losing?
a really good question. Let me find out for you and see if they kind of parse that out. I'm sure they do between that corridor and the residential areas, but I'll find that out.
Yeah, we don't
Bring that
want to
back.
lose any residents
Right.
if we can avoid, and there's assistance programs several people on this board help with through the Veterans Affairs and stuff too.
And I'm not sure if there's a census or tracking as far as how many, the population of Laughlin or how many households have moved since, for the past 18 months. But as far as water usage in residential areas, I'll look to see if I can find that out.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
And sir, in the audience, I can give you an opportunity to speak, but it would be at the second section with the public comments. Certainly, you can have a private conversation with him outside the room. Certainly. All right. And, okay,
Thank you.
moving forward to number 5, which is wait, no, we just did that one. Hello. Number 6, receive a report from Haley Mayo. There you are. With University of Nevada Cooperative Extension regarding the status of programs and upcoming activities. Welcome back.
Thank you. So first, I just wanted to thank everybody who was able to participate in the survey that I had sent out and made public back in November and the beginning of December. It provided me with a lot of really good feedback of what the community wants to see out of Extension, and I'm really working hard to get some of those programs put together and brought out to the public. We have been able to continue offering the 4-H after-school program to the youth of Laughlin through various location changes. Since the schools had been shut down, it had been at the library. When the library shut down, we were lucky enough to have it in our building right there with the constable's office. And then now they're back at the library, and I know the kids are really enjoying having that sense of normalcy in their lives. I've been working with the Las Vegas office and some community members here in Laughlin, as well as in Bullhead City and Fort Mojave, to expand our Master Gardener program. So we are going to have a full Master Gardener program, provide home gardening tips, tricks, and classes. When we provide those programs, we're working on expanding our community garden and throwing out some different ideas with that. So we're just making progress and baby steps, and I've really enjoyed my time here the past 8 months that I've been here. So,
Is there any questions from the board? No. One question, I seem to have a lot of them today, I guess. Haven't been here for a couple months. So just as I had asked prior about capital improvements, I know you were doing the survey, you were going to compile, data on what, the community is asking for, especially with the pandemic. And then in addition, I'm assuming that you have capital improvements and things that you're going to be submitting for funding for coming up in fiscal 21, 22?
yes.
And that deadline, is that in May as well?
So my budget comes out of like Clark County as a whole, specifically in the Las
Correct.
Vegas office. I've been well within my budget, but we have been working on finding other grants and sources, and one of those grants that I'm really excited to be able to bring to Laughlin is I've received a portion of the 2021-2022 SNAP Ed grant. So I'll be able to bring SNAP Ed programming to the Laughlin Public Schools. So.
Okay. And then in addition, I just would invite you, you have several members of this board that have worked with you. I know Fred's done a lot of work with the gardening program and stuff. Please feel free to utilize us if you have, capital expenditures, grants, things that you want to bring before the board for endorsement from the board. We're certainly willing to help you. We do it privately, but now as a board. So feel free to use that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And the next item is to receive a report from Jackie Mazzeo with the Laughlin Chamber of Commerce regarding current and upcoming business activities in Laughlin. Before she gets to the podium, I just wanted to thank our chamber and our VIP volunteers and the fire department for all their work that they've put in recent weeks with the vaccine. Jackie, you had one hell of a day the first day. I think you were the Energizer Bunny from like 8 o'clock in the morning until I left at like 6 and I was done. So you were still going. But being stationed at the escalators, I can tell you that, the longest it ever was when we had the huge crunch of people on the first day was 40 minutes. And that was an elderly couple that had to have a 30-minute observation period. So to vaccinate that many people, and the average run time from the time you went up in the escalators in the ballroom until you were down and, leaving the building, because we'd asked several people to check in with us, was 20 minutes, and that's a 15-minute wait time. So your volunteers were amazing. Those are wonderful people, and you guys did a great job. And I just appreciate all the work that you put in.
Thank you. We appreciate the acknowledgement, and we are more than happy to continue to help in any way that we can. I think they thrive on that and know that their participation saves us all money, time, and health. So, Jackie Mazzeo, M-A-Z-Z-E-O, Laughlin Chamber of Commerce President and CEO. The first comment on here was just to remind you of the Laughlin Chamber Water Flow Committee that we're working with Tri-State to talk about how water flows work for recreation, caddisfly, and recreation levels. The next meeting for that is February 17th. For your knowledge, the Jingle Mingle Christmas celebration for the Chamber was canceled on December 10th. The Connie Davis 5K Walk and Roll for Cancer is March 6th, and we're working tirelessly to bring that virtually. We do not want, that is a 100% donation to the River Fund Inc.'s Cancer Connection to help cancer warriors in the tri-state area with expenses that their insurance doesn't cover. Right now, the fund is looking pretty good, so if we have a bad year this year for registrations for the Cancer Walk, we won't be in dire straits, but we still don't want that fund to get too low. We are continuing to do ribbon cuttings, but of course, only under 25 people are allowed at each ribbon cutting, and we take turns talking to the business owners and doing special presentations for them. Volunteers in partnership are limited to 6, but they still do a really good job in acquiring all the needs of that business owner and making sure that they reach or fulfill their inquiries so that they can go on with their work. The mixers and education forums that we have once a month are going to be decreased to Zoom. We are all now very, very big experts on Zoom, and I think we're going to have a whole different forum in people being able to network and get education out there in all realms of business, government, and social gatherings. The volunteers in partnership presented their donations to qualifying nonprofit organizations on January 12th. This year was reduced from $10,000 a year to $4,000 a year based on the amount of money they were able to earn in 2020. But they were well-deserved, and I do not have the names of those 501c3s at the top of my head, but I know Caring Hearts for Horses, which is a 501c3 out of Golden Valley. They were very instrumental in abandoned horses and abused horses during the COVID pandemic, and people having to evacuate their homes, and they've done a very, very good job. I'm very proud of that organization. They received $1,000. Membership services have increased with additional marketing opportunities such as newsletters, social media, email blasts, and resource guides for that are listed by state for every business in all tri-state area, so that they can find what's the latest and most recent periodicals that are put out by everything across the U.S., including the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and U.S. SBA. The new members that we've got took advantage of the 30-day trial period during the COVID pandemic to see what kind of resources we could provide them and reduce their expenses, especially in marketing and services that they needed with a reduced budget. And they found some of our services very valuable, and now we find more asking for those kind of services, and I expect that our members will go up over 300 in the first quarter. The new services that we're looking to add are a notary service, registered agent services, and we've applied for a fishing license issuance center out of our building. That's the biggest complaint that we get, are people are not able to get a fishing license, and if they're not tech savvy and they can't apply over their phone when they get here because they don't know that there's no fishing license issuance on either side at this point, we want to be able to give them that opportunity to do it right at our property. Total members as of the end of January are 291. 28% of those are Laughlin businesses, and new members for quarter to date 2021 are 3. Elections were held in January, and the executive board officers have been voted. Chairman of the board is Fred Doughton, past chair is Sean Hammond, co-chair is Bree Tyler, treasurer is Chuck Copeland, CPA, and our secretary is Robert Church. The tourism grant projects that we worked with the Laughlin Tourism Commission have been fully executed, and the vendors have been compensated, and we're awaiting reimbursement for those. Measuring the impact of the projects will be difficult, but phone calls, emails, and visits to the website have been really encouraging for the outreach. We did digital billboards along California, Arizona, and Nevada. Distribution of the community guides up to 10,000 across Washington, Oregon, California, Utah, and Arizona. And we did website redesign with a video of everything that you can do here, recreation, relocation, whether it was spiritual, education, all of those things on this video, and we included a special page for Laughlin Tourism Commission and the Laughlin Visitor Center. And for those who don't know, we are the Laughlin Visitor Center right now because LVCVA has closed the Visitor Center permanently. We also were awarded a PETS grant from the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and we received that money in January. The Paycheck Protection Program application is completed, and it will, because it's now eligible for 501c6 organizations, and that will be submitted in the next week. Our COVID-19 partnerships, we, as staff and volunteers in partnership, provided support for the COVID-19 testing on Friday, February 8th at Laughlin Junior Senior High School, and then, of course, as Kathy alluded to, we participated in the full day of February 3rd and 4th for vaccinations, and it was an amazing ballet of all the people that were there and how wonderfully orchestrated it was.
And also, just one thing so that the public knows, and then as this is being aired as well, the Chamber helped many of our seniors because this particular platform was 70 and older, and many of the individuals that could get the shots that were 70 and over, they're not the technological people to make the appointments. They weren't able to go online and do that, and Chamber staff stepped up and took phone calls from the people that were 70 and over and got them their appointments online. Will you be able to do that on the next set that we have?
Yes, ma'am. We dedicated 3 full days with volunteers and staff because they're calling again and putting it on a waiting list with their phone number. Can you call us as soon as it's ready so we can make an appointment? So we have staff ready to do that.
Great.
Thank you for mentioning that. I forgot to even talk about it. I also added that the schedule for appointments is on there in case anybody needs it or you need to put it on your website. There has been no release date for the PBS Outdoor Nevada segment that we recorded, but I will let you know as soon as that happens. Any questions about Chamber? Yes, Herm.
What date's been set for the regatta?
Nice. No regatta.
And I was just going to go back and from our November 10th meeting, we had a conversation about NDOT doing a renaming of the Colorado River Highway.
Mm-hmm.
And then also there was a conversation about an exit off Highway 11 it says like Boulder City and Searchlight, but it doesn't say Laughlin. And I just didn't know. I know we've had many things happen since then, but I just didn't know if we had checked on those things.
Yes, we did. We sent an email inquiry to NDOT to ask them about adding Laughlin to that. And the Arizona Department of Transportation and NDOT both put a hold during COVID on the project for the renaming of Highway 68 and 163. We will resume an opening conversation on that as soon as we're able to.
Thank you.
Jackie,
Yes, ma'am.
the notary, are you gonna charge for that? Is there'll be a minimal fee, free if you're a member of the
If you're a member,
chamber?
it's free.
And when will that be? When will
She's
the
doing her
notary be
test right now.
Okay, when will she be, after that, will she be setting up hours?
Oh, all day.
All day.
Yeah.
Great.
As
That's-
long as Claudia's there at the front desk, we will have notary service.
That's sorely needed with the pandemic and not being able to go into banks. For
And
this
if you're a member,
community.
it will be free.
Great. Thank you.
I'll move on to my Laughlin Town Advisory Board. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Run Laughlin 5K, 12K, and half marathon event for 2 states, 2 time zones, and 1 damn great race was canceled. They didn't understand how we could separate the races by time and finish, and so they canceled it. I want to say the Southern Nevada Health District canceled it, and we're planning, they did a virtual race, and we're able to have a little bit of fun with that, and he's going forward with planning that for 2021. The SNOR, Southern Nevada Off-Road Enthusiast Mackenzie's Rage at the River Off-Road Races was also canceled, and that was December 10 through 13. Rockets Over the River was close, but we got them off the ground. There was a little delay in the Christmas display of about 45 seconds, and that was because the firing computer, not the PC, but the firing computer that relates to the PC to light the rockets was delayed by 40 minutes due to a motherboard that went out. They got it up in 40 seconds with a new firing board, and it was delayed by the music just a little bit, but they were able to provide us a great compensation for the Christmas display where we didn't have to pay for rooms or meals for that period because they felt so bad, and the New Year's display was over 4,000 cannons or rockets, and it was just beautiful. And it was all to sing along music for the kids, so when they were sitting in the car, they could sing along to Christmas music. And it was just a beautiful display. COVID-19 social gathering and masks were adhered to by all gaming properties, and it was limited to invited guests only, unless you stayed in your room and watched it through the glass. The Best in the Desert All-Terrain Concepts UTV Legends Championships will be held March 25th through the 28th, but there will be no spectators, and a 100% mask mandate will be enforced, especially with the pit crews. They have some, if you break the rules, you will be fined by a team. So it's pretty strict. But we're still going to have it, and they'll still be able to bring media, MAV TV, ESPN, and those kind of things to our community to give us some exposure. I'm just going to say motorcycle rally for the end of April. I do not have a lot of information about that, but I do know that the Mayhem Tattoo Convention is still scheduled for the Aquarius, and anything that's beyond that I cannot comment at this time. That's April 22nd through the 25th. All concerts and entertainers have been moved to dates after June 1st, 2021 for the spring and fall concert series for LEC and the Event Center, for obvious reasons. The Laughlin Tourism Grants are the same as the Laughlin Chamber grants because we work together in partnership, and that was for the digital billboards, the distribution of guides, and the website redesign that included all three organizations. If you have any questions about LTC, I'll be happy to answer those at this time.
Any questions from the board? No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right, and on item number 9, we have receive a report from Parks and Recreation regarding the status of programs and upcoming activities.
Not here.
No one from Parks and Recreation? They did give me some statistics here, which was basically that the building was closed for visits due to COVID-19, and currently they don't have any upcoming events. Of course, that would be, contingent upon, the governor opening that back up, which we hope that to be happening here shortly. The senior center has been closed. Boys and Girls Club Day Camp program is still being offered at the Spirit Mountain Activity Center, and the senior program is, of course, waiting on the governor's guidelines. Okay. And the next two items, one is the Laughlin School report. Do we have anyone here from Laughlin School? Okay. And then moving forward from the Laughlin Library, which also has been closed. I don't see Tanya here. And then we'll move forward to item number 12, and that is announcements of upcoming neighborhood meetings and county or community meetings and events. And this is for discussion purposes only. And one of the things that I'm going to bring forward, the first thing is the CERT program, which they had just completed. The certification, I believe it was done virtually. I've been through the CERT program before. Mr. Doughton just finished the recent online one. And so that is available. I believe it's posted out in the lobby, and it's available in the back if anybody wants to be part of the community emergency response team. So that's always a good thing to have. We used to have actually practical exercises in September, which is Emergency Preparedness Month, and do roundtable operations. I don't know if we'll get back to that, but I'm hoping at one point that we can. And another item that I wanted to bring up and to make the public aware of as it pertains to, neighborhood meetings, county and community meetings or events. I needed to make everyone aware that there has been put forward to the Nevada legislature another Senate bill that's been sponsored by Senator Hardy and Levitt that pertains to incorporation of Laughlin. So that has been advanced and put in a legislative format of a Senate bill. It was proposed by, an organization or a group outside of the Town Advisory Board of the Chamber, and, put forward with assistance from Senator Hardy and Levitt. This board, as a unit, ran all together. It's quite astonishing that the public voted not just, I believe there were 9 people that ran for Town Advisory Board, but the community chose this board that all ran together, which that's unusual because, we were the top 5 individuals that were elected. And this board cohesively ran with the understanding that we were not necessarily for immediate incorporation. None of us necessarily has anything against incorporation if the finances and the numbers make sense, and it is a cohesive program that goes forward with the county working hand in hand. If the numbers make sense for Laughlin to be incorporated, then that may well be what happens. But ultimately, we felt that our senators, Hardy and Levitt, did not hear from our community. They didn't hear from this board, and they didn't hear from this community. So one of the things that I've asked Tammy to do is to get permission in the minutes of this meeting to put Senator Hardy and Levitt's public contact information so that you, as the public, the voting constituents of Laughlin, can have your voice heard on what you think about incorporation. Because I know a couple of members of this board had been in contact with Hardy and Levitt, and they said that they hadn't heard anything otherwise from the community except for the proposal that was put forward by, another entity. So I just wanted to ask the community, for their input. It's your town, and whether it becomes a city or not ultimately is in your hands. And I think our senators and legislators need your input. And so if Tammy has permission to put their information public on the website and on our postings, if you would reach out and contact them and let them know what your thoughts are on incorporation. That's what I have in community events. Are there any other announcements from the board? No? Okay. And then item number 13, which is a discussion regarding long-range plans for street road improvements. And this is for discussion only. Mr. Doughton, Herm?
Kathy, I had put that into what was proposed as an agenda item earlier on. My concern was that at least on 2 occasions that I can recall, when a gentleman resident of Laughlin came before the board and made complaints about the dereliction of streets and alleys, lack of maintenance in the town of Laughlin. So I think what we should do, and agendize this, or handle it as however we want, is to have a representative from Public Works come down and meet with a committee in the Laughlin Town Advisory Board. What I would like to see done is that we take a comprehensive survey of the community and assess what's wrong with the streets. And those that are in bad shape be assigned a priority for maintenance, repair, or replacement. And we can't do this all at once. And I know that money is a big problem, but I think that if we would set a comprehensive plan and schedule this for implementation over a period of 4 to 6 years, that we could make a substantial improvement in the
More progress than we have been.
community. And that's what I would like to see done.
Mr. Doughton, we used to have that, I believe, when you ran Public Works and when I ran Public Works. We had lists like that. So it might be something, I don't know if that's possible, Tammy, to have, as we get these reports on a monthly basis, something from Public Works and update. I oftentimes wanted to see Real Property Management, RPM, when we had some things going with them, like the dredging and stuff. That was kind of a nightmare. I thought if we could pull them down on a monthly basis, and even if we do it in a Zoom capacity, and then also Public Works give a report. Is that possible to do that with the county?
Kathy, with all deference to what you have just said, I don't know that we need any more reports. We need more action than we do reports. And we need someone from Public Works to come down here, and one or two people from this town advisory board to work with them and to take a survey of the condition of the streets in Laughlin. And then say, and it's fairly obvious that we've got some streets that are in dire need of either replacement or serious repair. Let's program this for work.
Okay. I think if we get that done, just my opinion, if we bring them in maybe on a monthly basis, in other words, get that survey done and get a priority list set. I just find from an accountability standpoint, if they've got to come in or give a report, we at least are in their mind once a month from Public Works. Like, yes, we've got this going or that. But I see what you're saying as far as getting something done, but then in holding feet to the fire, if they report to us once a month or let us know where that's at, if that's possible to happen, because at least they got to think of us once a month.
My experience has been that those people have asbestos shoes.
Or they're email people. Yeah. Okay. Fred.
I'd like to comment that, back in a few years ago when we were had the committees, we had a Public Works committee where we did surveys of the town twice a month, both at daytime and nighttime, looking at the streets, the lights, safety hazards, etc. Then twice a year, Clark County came down for an hour to a 2-hour meeting to discuss the activities, and we provided them with a list every month of what was on the board and what needed to be repaired. They were doing very good at doing that. When we stopped the committee, I tried to set up a citizens committee, but the members would not come down because we were not part of the town board. I believe we should be back in that world again. I also know that several years ago, Dennis Cedarberg would come down in the fall and look over what the possible budget activities were for the year, and then put monies in there to make it happen, and gave us a report in the spring what was going to be happening. That stopped about 6 years ago, yeah. And it hasn't gone on ever since, and I think we need to get that back again.
Yeah. I hate to throw something back on staff because we have less and less county staff. One of the things, and this goes back like 2002, we used to have in the paper, in the Laughlin Times, there was to contact if you have road problems, and it was just a standing thing that would run. And it said, if there's road problems, contact the town manager's office. That used to go to Deborah Murray and Jackie Brady. And then from there, they would just keep a list in the office, and then, they had something that people had called in. I don't know if that's something that could run as a regular thing in the Times paper. So it's just a vehicle for people, and all Jackie and Deborah did is they just had a clipboard that wrote down the locations, and it just kind of compiled things. I don't want to put more work on staff.
We still somewhat do that when we get calls in from the public on complaints of road hazards, any type of hazards. We call them Public Works right away anyways.
Yeah. We used to just keep a clipboard, and then we would take it directly to Public Works and directly to Dennis Cedarberg. I just don't know if that would be another way to help. Yeah, I don't know if that'd be another way to help compile stuff, because that would, if that ran in the paper, people would see that, and it's just like, I had a problem with the road. Well, there's a place in the paper where you can call. So, and literally it was just a clipboard.
Yeah.
So we have some thoughts about that.
I
And
think something needs to be done.
I'm sorry, Herm, I didn't hear that.
Something needs to be done.
Right, I understand. Okay.
So are you gonna request Public Works on the next agenda?
I think that'd be a good place to start, and then we can make some contacts from there. And if we know they're coming and it's agendized, then we can definitely, amongst ourselves as we're driving out and try and get some feedback and input. So if that's possible, if we could agendize them.
I'll try to get that.
Okay, that'd be a good idea. Herm, that's a starting ground. Herm?
Yes.
Okay, start there, agendize them, and if we know for sure they're coming, we can put something together in and of our own, each
Exactly.
one individually,
Sure.
and at least start there.
Yeah.
Fred, did you have something else?
One of the things I did on the Public Works Committee is that we, every month at our meeting, we would have one of the various agencies, for example, Public Works, the sewer department, et cetera, they would come in once a year and brief us. The flood control group came down once a year. And my thought is that we have a second meeting, and it would be a perfect time to have
Oh,
one
yeah,
of
on a
those
second
down
meeting.
here to cover all the activity, because when you're at a town board meeting, those kind of briefings can last for an hour and a half. But if you have it on a special event, you can cover it. People that are interested can come in for that activity.
A special call meeting or a second meeting of the month? And Fred, do you have a hot mic, or is it just your microphone? Is it that, or I don't remember if we have a clip on.
Well, I don't know what, this is great. I don't know why
I think.
So you have a wearable mic?
No, I don't.
Oh, it's right over there. I'm sorry, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see your microphone. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't have enough to go around, so I give them.
Okay. All right. Next time.
752.
Okay. All right. So we have kind of an idea about that then. Okay. Any more discussion on long-range development plan, street roads improvements?
I just want to say something about short range. I hope it is. I want to congratulate Tammy for her work as town manager and liaison and secretary.
She's got three hats now, and I'm trying
done a
really
great
hard not to
job.
overwhelm her. Oh, yep, that's true. And her and Doug are we get John. How long is John's here? How many hours a week?
19,
19?
yeah, so that's a good help,
Yeah, it is, but it's a far cry from where we were.
exactly.
But like I said, their workload is about tripled. Okay, so we'll move forward, which is planning and zoning. We don't have any items before this board. And then under general business, item number 1, which is to discuss a request from Mike Jackson, Executive Director of Southern Nevada Transit Coalition, SNTC, also as we know him, our Silver Rider, for support of the SNTC's request for continuation of Federal Transit Administration funding for the community of Laughlin. To send a letter of support to the Board of County Commissioners and take any other action deemed appropriate. And this is for possible action. One thing that I should have remembered, although this was our first agenda, just for this board, in the future, if there's someone that's coming from Vegas or a distance to speak, if our meetings are going to be long, we can always move them up in the count so that they don't have to sit through this meeting, to give their presentation, and then maybe they have to drive back to Vegas as well. It's something I forgot to offer, but when I give in the beginning, when I make the announcements, that we can combine, delete, hold, change the order of anything. If you see that, and if I missed it, feel free to go ahead and do that at that time. I missed this one, and I do apologize for making you, our Silver Rider, stay all this time frame when I could have expedited it. I did miss that, and I apologize. And don't be afraid to mention it to Tammy when you come in the future. But please, if we can have you come forward, or do you just want me to read the letter and to take a vote on it? Do you want to present?
No, I don't have no report today. Just
Okay, all right. Then I'll go ahead and read the support letter into the minutes so that we know what it says, and then I'll take a motion to approve the letter as written or make any changes. So this is from us, the Laughlin Town Advisory Board, dated today. Michael Naft, Commissioner, Clark County Board of County Commissioners in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's regarding the Laughlin Transportation Support. At the February 9th meeting, the Laughlin Town Advisory Board requested a letter be sent to the Board of County Commissioners to support the continuation of Federal Transit Administration funding for Southern Nevada Transit Coalition, as we know them, Silver Rider, for the community of Laughlin. Public transportation is vital to the community of Laughlin, particularly in these difficult economic times. Laughlin has a high population of senior citizens as well as low-income residents who are public transit dependent. Residents in rural communities like Laughlin have limited services available, making public transportation their only access to normal daily necessities and life-sustaining medical accessibility. Although this is the case in many rural communities, transportation is especially critical to the residents of Laughlin who have no other public transportation options currently open to them. The Laughlin Town Advisory Board appreciates Board of County Commissioner consideration for the request for the continued Federal Transit Administration funding for the operation of the Southern Nevada Transit Coalition, Silver Rider, local bus service to provide transportation in Laughlin, Nevada. Respectfully submitted, and it has a signature block. It's also CC'd to Leslie Shell, Chief Administrative Officer, Mike Jackson, Executive Director, Silver Rider, Deb Dowenhauer, hello Deb, Chief Financial Officer, Laughlin Town Advisory, and Tiffany Hesser, Liaison to Commissioner Naft. So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion if you want to accept it as it's written, if there's any changes that you want.
So moved.
Okay, I have a first and a second and probably a third, it sounds like. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0, and the motion carries. So I'll go ahead and sign this original letter and give that back to Tammy. Right, and then the next item that we have is item number 2, which is to appoint one member of the Laughlin Town Advisory Board representative to participate in the Transform Clark County rewrite of Clark County's Development Code Title 30. And this is for possible action. And let's see.
I make the motion that we appoint Kathy Oakes with her acceptance to this advisory.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, we were advised by the member that currently is served that the entire process is near the ending of it. And so I believe he said that the final for the Title 30 was nearing the end. Was that not what he had said? I don't recall. And I don't
It's
think...
my understanding it's going to run through 2022.
Yeah, that's what I was understanding as well. And so I wasn't sure in the statement that was made, since that was made much earlier, I thought I recalled him saying that it was at the end of the process, but I thought it was
It could be
due
the
to go
phase,
an
first
end of a phase. Okay,
right.
I wasn't clear on that, so I was just wondering if anyone else had that. Okay, so I have a motion and I have a second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries 5-0.
And you accept.
And I'll accept the position. And then moving forward now to item number 3, it says to discuss the 2021 Laughlin Citizen of the Year and take any action deemed appropriate. This is for possible action. And one of the statements that I felt was important, to kind of bring to the forefront about this board that your community has now. So this board consists, these individuals that sit before you are kind of the individuals that you've always seen whether it's at the Veterans Center, whether it's at the food bank, at community events, whether pretty much anything that happens in this community. We've been the individuals that are there behind the scenes that have quietly worked. And, fortunately, everybody kind of came out this time and agreed to run and to go to the front, which is a different type of environment. And it is involvement. And I think some of the community over the last couple of years just kind of felt shut out from anything that was involved with this town board. And so I think that the election kind of shifted that and changed that. And I'm definitely hoping for a lot more community involvement. We have some things that are going to be happening with YouTube, hopefully with some new video and upgrading that type of system that will take us forward, and we can get back the involvement of the community, that the community doesn't feel shut out and that the board is representative of one entity or of one format and not indicative of their wants and their needs. So with that, I know in recent years with our Citizens of the Year, with COVID, it does make it more difficult to do. I do believe it can be done, but I think that we had a very large lack of involvement from the community. And I don't wonder if that was a direct result of, this board kind of shutting down community involvement in recent years. And, since this board now consists of the people that have always been there with everyone in the background, working on behalf of the community, we're known, and I think there'll be a lot more involvement. I don't know if if the Citizen of the Year is set to be at certain months of the year only and not available in other time frames, but going forward, this is for 2021. 2020 did not happen, am I correct?
So far.
So far, because and that's because it's only at certain months of the year that they do that?
Typically, it was voted on in November to just table it until this month when the new board was here. So we could absolutely move forward with it, or we could wait until the end of the year to start the next year.
And my concern is I do want to do it, but I think it's going to take us, and it's part of our jobs to kind of envelop the community again, get them involved in this board. We're going to have a way now to reach them if we upgrade, the facilities here and the fiber optics and network and stuff like that. And because my concern is if we do it right here today, in recent years, we had very few people submitting individuals for the award. My concern is, does this board want to take a little more time, or do we want to try and get it executed right away and go for the 2021 Citizens of the Year? And so that's just what I'm asking you to think about. What is it you want to do? And we can move this forward to another agenda to have an answer for you guys to think about it. But that's just my comment. I think part of our job is to get the support back and the input back from the community and let them understand that we're a vehicle and a voice for them. And I think if we do that from there, we'll get more participation from the community, something we've been lacking the last couple of years.
I think we ought to go for more time.
Yeah, more time so that we can have an opportunity to regain the community involvement with this board. So Tammy, when would you recommend we pick this back up? I mean, logically.
Well, we could start at the normal times. I started around in October, November.
Okay.
And we put our committees together, we get the application.
I think that gives us a good 8-10 months to be able to do that. Is everyone okay with that for 2021? Mm-hmm. Okay. It is a possible action. Oh, wait, no. Is it action or discussion?
It's
That was just, where am I?
Number 3.
For possible action. Okay. All right. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we consider the 2021 Citizen of the Year in its normal annual time frame for 2021.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. And let's see, the next one is item 9, which is comments by the general public. And so this is a period for comments by the general public about matters relevant to the board's jurisdiction will be held. We cannot vote, and so no vote may be taken on a matter not listed on the proposed agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, and if we could please have any individuals that want to speak step up to the speaker's podium if applicable, state your name and address, and spell your name for the record a little bit slowly so that the recording device can pick it up. And if any member of the board wishes to extend the length of the presentation, this will be done by the chairperson or the board by majority vote. In addition, just so we're clear, the board cannot comment and have an interaction with you at this point. It's simply for your voice to be heard and to be entered into the record. We can't ask questions of the people or have a dialogue about it. But like I said, it is a chance for the public to be heard. So first, state your name and address for the record.
Herm Walker, H-E-R-M, W-A-L-K-E-R. Kathy, I'm basically going to pick up at the point at which you left off in talking about Senate Bill 79. The name of the game in current politics seems to be transparency. I have read the 35 pages of this Bill 79 more than once. And I'm only going to mention one particular with regard to transparency. But it's important. It's in section 1 of this legislation. And it identifies the area which will be incorporated. What does it tell me? It says all those portions of Township 32 South, Range 64 East, Township 32 South, Range 65 East, Township 32 South, Range 66 East, Township 34 South, Range 66 East, BD, BM, which are located in the County of Clark and State of South Dakota, or State of Nevada. Going back to my home state. That's just part of the description. It starts here and it goes through this page. What I read is referred to as a geographical description. Another description is by meets and bounds. The description given here and on page 2 falls into the category of meets and bounds. I am telling you that there is absolutely no transparency to this description. I would guarantee you that there would not be more than 2 or 3 or maybe possibly 5 residents of the community of Laughlin who could read and understand and show you where the boundaries are that will encompass the town of Laughlin. It's just not here. I've practiced law since 1961, and I did a lot of real estate work. And I can tell you, I know something about descriptions. With this description, I couldn't tell you if my property falls within or without. And if you took this description and you were reliant upon it, what you would have to do is start walking around, find the corners that hopefully have been marked with a metal rod or a brass cap and wind your way through and around in order to find out what property is going to be in this. Is that transparent? That's not even a labor of love. That's a nuisance. I don't know who did this. I don't know who did this. But it's very, very poorly done. What's the answer? If they're going to continue with this charade, then there needs to be a map. And the map needs to identify the boundaries. So someone like you, and even someone like me, who has some knowledge about real estate and its location, can identify what's within and what's without the proposed community of Laughlin. You can't do it from this. There is no transparency, absolutely none. There's a caption at the base of the first page that's entitled Legislative Council's Digest. I don't know where Legislative Council went to school to get licensed to practice law, if in fact this was done by legal counsel. But it's the most poorly composed document that I have ever read. There are inconsistencies in it, and it's just it's totally ridiculous. Why is it ridiculous? Why is this coming before the legislature? The last time they tried to get the legislature to move on this, it was done by Hardy and Levitt. Levitt proposed the legislation. Hardy was a supporter. This way they don't identify, well, they've got Senator Hardy is identified on this, on Senate Bill 79. I want to make one comment about Senator Hardy. He came down here and made a public offering to the populace of Laughlin after the initial election, at which time the property owners, the voters, substantially defeated incorporation. Hardy stood in a public gathering and said, the reason for the defeat was that the people who voted didn't understand. You know, they're talking about me, they're talking about you. We don't understand. 65% of the population who voted didn't understand. I want to tell you something. Levitt and Hardy have never appeared before the Laughlin Town Advisory Board to my knowledge. I don't know if they've appeared before the Board of County Commissioners of Clark County. To my knowledge, at least, which is limited, my answer would be they haven't. Well, where does this crap come from? Well, the genesis of it is clearly identified by a local group called the LEDC, which I have said many times before, and I'll say it again, is the alter ego for Bob Bilberry. That's all that it is. So you can imagine, I can imagine, that Mr. Bilberry told his pet Senator Hardy, the people just didn't understand. And Hardy, in a moment of mental vacancy, got up in a public setting and said, you voters just didn't understand.
Herm,
What a comment. What a comment. I have detailed this. I've got it massively yellow line. I'm not going to go into it, but I'm just going to say that, number one, it makes no sense to have this before the legislature. It's a local problem. It should be resolved locally. And the legislature has absolutely no business whatsoever. Admitted, this calls for an election 2 years down the road. But what the hell are we doing with this being before the legislature? Plus, there's some leverage in here that really complicates the situation. It really does.
He doesn't hear that. Thank you.
That's the problem.
Herb, thank you.
I'm going to wind up shortly.
Okay.
What this provides for is just another level of government. And government is expensive. Who picks up the bill for government expense? We do. We're the taxpayers. It's our bill. It's our bill. It isn't the bill of Mr. Naniachi who lives in Havasu City. It's our bill. It's our bill to pay. We have the property here, we live here, we work here, we're dedicated citizens to the community of Laughlin, and that's it. And there is absolutely no business having this before the legislature. I would appreciate you going to your friends, your relatives, the people that you know here in Laughlin, and have them write to any assemblyman or senator and castigate this bill. It has absolutely no merit whatsoever. None.
Thank you, Herb. And I have two other individuals to speak. One of them is a written, which will be short. Obviously, I'm not adhering to the 3-minute ruling. So this one will be brief. This is written by Bruce Henry. It was submitted on Wednesday, February 3rd of 2021 to Tammy Harris, and it was regarding an agenda item on Ltab for February 9th. It reads, "My name is Bruce Henry, and I reside at 2004 Mesquite Lane, Unit A 201 in Laughlin. I would like to comment on agenda item dealing with election of chair and co-chair of this board. 10 plus years ago, my late wife and myself moved to Laughlin, and in that process since, I have met some of the nicest people ever, and I have no regrets in making Laughlin my home. However, I can say without reservation, if I had met two of this current board members, I might say I might still be living in California. What really distresses me is, according to or alluded to in a recent Laughlin Times article, that selection process has already taken place of one of those people mentioned above. Clearly, a violation of Nevada open meeting law, which this member made a big stink about on January 2017 Ltab meeting. She even accused me of being part of that, which was totally false. A quality that is essential in leadership is when you are wrong, properly admit it and apologize. This member never did that. As members, members make this decision to elect your new chair and vice chair. Remember, you represent the citizens of Laughlin, not the chamber or the Laughlin Times, but those citizens in the zip code of 89029 and 89028. My trust is in God that you will make the prudent choice, your neighbor, Bruce Henry." So that we read into the minutes, although I guess we should have maybe had that at the first part, but at least it's in the, it's in the minutes, so that's fine. And then we have another public comment interest card, and this is from Jim Maniaci at the second public comment period. And Mr. Maniaci, please, you have the,
At this time, I wish to wait until next month. Thank you.
at the second period, is that correct? Okay, all right, thank you. And sir, if you would like, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and spell your last name for the record, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Hello, my name is Fred Wells. I am a resident of Laughlin. I am a Grand Knight of Knights of Columbus. I am also the founder of the PCAC, People Caring About the Children. I am an elk, I am a Legionnaire, and I had a complaint about a year and a half ago. I did the walking through all of El Mirage Estates for streets. Anyway, I got a letter back from Carson City over a year ago, and they told me they didn't have any money to do our streets. And I really recommend, I thank you, Herman, for your idea about streets. Anyway, I have found out recently now they're talking about a $50 million bridge they want to put in. That's going to come out of our tax money. They're also going to put in a walking bridge at the dam, which I don't understand that either, because they already had one walking bridge that nobody ever walked on over by the dam. I mean, by the bridge we have here now. And they're also talking about putting in billboards now for the city of Laughlin, or the town of Laughlin, because we're supposed to be a nice environment and this a resort area. Come on, these people don't have any money. What is going on with our streets? I mean, we have streets that are really bad. I put out a petition a year and a half ago of 130 people, and everybody I knocked on that door, them people signed that petition because they're looking for streets. I would like to see something done. For the 22 years or 23 years I've been here, the only thing I've got out of it so far was a patch on the street, and I got a new street light. That's not very much for the 24 years I've been here. I would like to see some streets in Laughlin Mirage. I mean, El Mirage. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
You for your time.
Thank you very much, and we'll try. All right, do I have anyone else from the public comment section? Please go ahead when the gentleman's finished and state your name and address for the record. And if you could spell your name, it's just easier for the microphone to pick that up. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Well, good afternoon and congratulations to all of you who have been elected to this fine Laughlin Town Advisory Board. My name is Jerry Bender, B-E-N-D-E-R, address 2258
Almost didn't recognize you with your mask. Jerry, we go a long way back. I didn't recognize you with your mask.
Well, I've been traveling incognito. It's been about 15 years since I've been before you as the board.
Yep.
Ms. Oakes, I appreciate what you had to say about Senate Bill 79, because I made different notes along here, and you
were here last time we did it. You were with our water department the last time when we had incorporation come before us. I miss those days.
That's so true. Yeah. Mr. Walker, you being the legal ease person here, when I was trying to make my way through Senate Bill 79, qualified electors. Would that be us as citizens? Would that term refer to us being able to vote on it, or are these qualified electors from the legislature that are going to vote on our future? I don't want to put you on the spot, but that's just a question I have, and we can think about that.
Too.
And also your map. Back in my other lifetime, we had a development map for Laughlin, and it looked very much like these, and it had the whole boundary of the township on it. It had identified South Laughlin, which was a wasteland. It's a desert, but developable. And then the regular township itself. Are these maps not around anymore, or are they purposely being discarded? Herm, I appreciate your comment on that. Other things are, what are the sources of revenue? The only thing I can think of are property taxes. You can't put any more sales tax on because we're already close to being what the city of Bullhead is, and 3% less than what Mojave Valley is. That's not going to bring in any business. And I think, Herm, you covered it. We need to invite Hardy, someone who really understands what's going on here, other than the fact, we'll just pass the bill and you can read it later. So
It's been a lot of that.
I would like more information, and I am, at this point in time, not having any understandable facts on my part, and that's my shortcoming. I am trying to work my way through this document, and I just don't understand it, but I would like further explanation. And Herm, if you put June 31st on your calendar for the regatta.
And I just, for those of you that don't know, Jerry is a wealth of information about this community and town. And so we should not let him exit the building without getting all of his contact information, because he's one of us from the old days that knows where the bodies are buried. That's right. And he's a wealth of information about how this town developed and grew, and just a great overall man. So I miss working with him over the years. We have other people from the Water District, but they've never quite been like you. So thank you. Okay, so let's see. We also had the admonishment about written items since COVID that people can submit those to Tammy by, is it 10 o'clock on the morning of the meeting?
10:30.
10:30 on the morning of the meeting. So with all of that, and if there's no one else for public comment, our next meeting date could be March 9th of 2021. And then I'll go ahead and call for a motion to adjourn. That's normally Herm's job. Or it's you've always been our adjourner.
I have a question before we get.
Sure.
I would like to have letters go out from this board to Hardy and letter and invite we have to have a special meeting because they're in session, but they usually do tractor barrels on weekends.
Okay.
And we can schedule a tractor barrel down here and invite them in person.
Okay. Special call meeting type thing?
I think it should be one where people from the town are invited to speak, because what's happened before is
Yeah, we're
when
just
they're
kind of at
invited
a,
down here by certain individuals, the town isn't notified.
Yeah.
I think the town should have a right to have that.
yeah, we're just not at a section right now. We could have brought that
Right.
in up above.
Right, so let me find out what we can do.
Okay. Yeah, because like that, we're at adjournment, and that would be something that we could bring in, but just something to put on here so we can find out what our parameters are to see if we can get that done.
Okay.
Okay, Herm?
I may lose it.
All right, I have a motion.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.